Mark's fingers danced across the espresso machine, coaxing out the rich aroma that filled stellar brews. The familiar hiss and gurgle provided a rhythmic backdrop to another mundane morning in Millbrook. Population 12,453. At 40, he'd mastered the art of the perfect pour-over, but his dreams of adventure remained firmly out of reach. "One vanilla latte for Sarah," he called out, sliding the steaming cup across the counter. Sarah, a regular with perpetually harried eyes, barely glanced up from her phone as she grabbed the drink and rushed out. Mark sighed, wiping down the counter for the umpteenth time. The clock ticked relentlessly. 10:17 a.m. Another 8 hours of monotony stretched before him like an endless desert. The bell above the door chimed, jolting Mark from his reverie. He plastered on his customer service smile, ready to recite his usual greeting. The words died on his lips as he took in the sight before him. Two identical women stood at the counter, their features striking and slightly off. Porcelain skin, impossibly large, iridescent eyes, and hair that seemed to shimmer between blue and purple, depending on how the light hit it. "Ah, yes, greetings, Earth Dweller," the one on the left chirped. "We require your finest bean juice concoction." Mark blinked, thrown off his usual script. Do you mean coffee?" The woman giggled, a sound like tinkling bells. "Is that the proper terminology? How quaint." "Yes, coffee, please, 2 of your most popular variety." Her sister leaned forward conspiratorially. "We're new in town," she stage whispered. "Still learning the local customs." Mark nodded, still slightly dazed. "Right, well, welcome to Millbrook. 2 lattes coming right up. Can I get your names for the order?" "I am Lyra," said the one on the left. "And I am Mira," added her sister. As Mark prepared their drinks, the twins peppered him with increasingly bizarre questions. "Tell us, Mark," Lyra began, "is it customary to consume these beverages while engaging in ritualistic dance?" Mark nearly spilled the milk he was steaming. No, not typically. Most people just drink them while sitting or walking." Mira's eyes widened. "Fascinating. And do you always wear those protective coverings on your lower appendages, or is that solely for food preparation?" "You mean pants?" Mark asked, growing more bewildered by the second. "Yeah, we generally wear them most of the time in public." "How restrictive," Lyra exclaimed. In our home country, we embrace a much more liberated dress code." Mark felt his cheeks flush at the implication. He busied himself with finishing their drinks, acutely aware of their intense gazes following his every move. "Here you go, ladies," he said, sliding 2 perfectly crafted lattes across the counter. "That'll be $8.50. The twins exchanged a confused glance. Mira produced a small, shimmering pouch from seemingly nowhere. "We are still unfamiliar with your currency. Will these suffice?" She poured a handful of what looked like iridescent pebbles onto the counter. Mark blinked, picking up one of the stones. It was impossibly smooth and seemed to pulse with an inner light. I'm not sure what these are, but I can't accept them as payment. Tell you what, first drinks on the house. Welcome to Millbrook." The twins' faces lit up with identical megawatt smiles. "Your generosity will be noted in the official report," Lyra exclaimed before Mira elbowed her sharply. "She means thank you for your kindness," Mira smoothly interjected. "Perhaps you could assist us further. We require lodging, but are unfamiliar with the local real estate market." Mark hesitated. These women were undeniably strange, but there was something oddly captivating about them. Against his better judgment, he found himself offering to help. "My building actually has a vacant apartment," he said. "I could show you after my shift if you're interested." The twins clapped their hands in perfect synchronization. "Splendid," they chorused. As they left the coffee shop, lattes in hand, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to get a whole lot more interesting. The rest of Mark's shift crawled by at an agonizing pace. His mind kept drifting back to Lyra and Mira, their otherworldly beauty and bizarre questions. When 6 p.m. finally rolled around, he practically sprinted out the door. To his surprise, the twins were waiting for him outside, looking as fresh and ethereal as they had that morning. "Greetings again, Coffee Alchemist Mark," Lyra called out. "We have spent the day observing your quaint settlement. Tell us, Do all Earth towns have such an abundance of canine waste receptacles? Mark chuckled despite himself. You mean the little bags in the park? Yeah, it's pretty standard. Come on, the apartment's this way. As they walked, Mark found himself inundated with increasingly strange inquiries. Mark, we noticed many of your kind engaging in the pressing of lips, Mira observed. Is this a method of transferring vital nutrients? He nearly tripped over his own feet. No, that's called kissing. It's a way to show affection. Intriguing, Lyra exclaimed. And is it customary to engage in this kissing with new acquaintances? Mark's face burned. Definitely not. Usually just between romantic partners. How does one determine compatibility for such partnerships? Mira pressed, her impossibly large eyes fixed on Mark with unnerving intensity. He fumbled for an answer. Well, there's dating, getting to know each other. Look, here's the building. Mark ushered them inside, grateful for the distraction. As he showed them around the vacant apartment, he couldn't help but notice how the twins seemed to communicate without speaking, exchanging meaningful glances and subtle gestures. This dwelling is most satisfactory, Lyra declared after a thorough inspection. We shall take it. Great, Mark said, relief flooding through him. I'll let the landlord know. You can move in as soon as the paperwork's done. As he turned to leave, Mira caught his arm. Her touch sent an electric jolt through his body. Mark, she purred, we are most grateful for your assistance. Perhaps we could engage in a traditional Earth custom to express our thanks? Before he could react, Mira leaned in close, her lips mere inches from his. Mark's heart hammered in his chest. Was she really about to? I believe the custom involves the preparation of sustenance in one's home, Lyra interrupted, appearing suddenly at his other side. Would you be amenable to hosting us for a dinner party tomorrow evening? Mark exhaled, a mix of relief and disappointment washing over him. Sure, yeah, I can do that. My place is just upstairs, apartment 3B. How's 7 p.m.? The twins beamed at him. Most excellent. We shall arrive promptly at the designated hour. As Mark stumbled back to his own apartment, his head spinning, he failed to notice the brilliant flash of light that momentarily illuminated the night sky. The next evening, Mark paced his small kitchen, nervously checking and rechecking the lasagna in the oven. He'd spent the day in a state of anxious anticipation, vacillating between excitement and trepidation at the thought of hosting Lyra and Mira. A sharp knock at precisely 7 p.m. made him jump. Taking a deep breath, he opened the door. The twins stood there, radiant as ever, but Mark's jaw dropped at their attire. They were dressed in what appeared to be a mishmash of formal wear and beachwear. Lyra in a cocktail dress paired with flip-flops, Mira sporting a tuxedo jacket over a bikini top and board shorts. We have adhered to Earth customs for social gatherings, Lyra announced proudly. Mark stifled a laugh. You, certainly made an effort. Come on in. As they entered, the twins' eyes darted around his apartment, taking in every detail with barely concealed fascination. Mark, your dwelling contains an alarming number of dated information storage devices, Mira observed, gesturing to his bookshelf. He chuckled. You mean books? Yeah, I'm a bit of a collector. Do you guys not have... He caught himself. I mean, are books not common where you're from? The twins exchanged a quick glance. Our society has evolved beyond such primitive methods, Lyra said smoothly. But how charming to see them preserved. As Mark busied himself in the kitchen, he could hear the twins whispering urgently to each other in a language he couldn't begin to identify. The few words he caught sounded like a mix of musical tones and clicks. Everything okay? He called out. Perfectly adequate, Mira replied, her voice slightly higher than usual. We were simply admiring your taste in decor. Dinner proved to be an adventure in itself. The twins seemed utterly baffled by the concept of utensils, attempting to eat the lasagna with their hands until Mark gently demonstrated the proper use of a fork. Their questions continued unabated throughout the meal. Mark, Lyra began, a glob of sauce on her chin, we've observed that humans seem to place great importance on physical appearances. What attributes do you find most appealing in a potential mate? He nearly choked on his wine. That's A pretty personal question, he deflected. Mira leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with mischief. We are merely conducting research on human courtship rituals. For instance, would you be more inclined towards a partner with, say, natural bioluminescence? Or perhaps the ability to alter their molecular structure at will? Mark laughed nervously. I think I'd settle for someone who likes bad sci-fi movies and doesn't mind my weird work hours. The conversation mercifully shifted to safer topics, but Mark couldn't shake the feeling that he was being subtly evaluated throughout the evening. As he cleared the plates, he noticed the twins having another silent exchange, punctuated by meaningful looks and almost imperceptible nods. Mark, Mira said suddenly, would it be permissible for us to use your waste extraction facility? It took him a moment to decipher her meaning. Oh, the bathroom? Sure, it's just down the hall on the left. The twins stood in perfect unison. We shall return momentarily, Lyra assured him as they disappeared down the hallway. Mark exhaled heavily, slumping against the kitchen counter. This evening was turning out to be even stranger than he'd anticipated. He rubbed his temples, trying to make sense of the twins' behavior. Were they just extremely sheltered, performance artists? Or could they possibly be? His train of thought was abruptly derailed by a cacophony of sounds emanating from the bathroom. Rushing water, mechanical whirring, and what sounded disturbingly like a small explosion. Everything okay in there? He called out, alarmed. Silence. Heart pounding, Mark approached the bathroom door. He raised his hand to knock, then froze as he heard Lyra's muffled voice. Iki, recalibrate the matter converter. We can't risk another interdimensional leak. Mira's reply was equally hushed but urgent. The temporal stabilizers are failing. If we don't complete the mission soon. Mark's mind reeled. Interdimensional leaks? Temporal stabilizers? This was beyond eccentric behavior. It was starting to sound downright extraterrestrial. Before he could process this revelation, the bathroom door flew open. Mark stumbled backward, nearly colliding with the twins as they emerged. Apologies for the delay, Lyra said brightly, as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. Your waste extraction rituals are most invigorating. Mark opened his mouth, 1,000 questions on the tip of his tongue, when a deafening boom shook the entire building. The lights flickered ominously. What the hell was that? He exclaimed. The twins exchanged a panicked look. Mark, Mira said, her voice suddenly devoid of its usual playfulness. I'm afraid we haven't been entirely truthful with you. Lyra nodded gravely. Your assistance has been invaluable, but now we must ask for your trust. Your planet, your very existence, may depend on it. As if on cue, a blinding light flooded the apartment, accompanied by an unearthly humming. Mark shielded his eyes, his world tilting on its axis. What's happening? He managed to stammer. Mira's voice cut through the chaos, tinged with both excitement and fear. The adventure you've been dreaming of, Mark. It's about to begin. Overwhelmed by the bizarre turn of events, Mark stumbled towards his bedroom, desperate for a moment to collect his thoughts. I need a shower, he muttered, more to himself than to the twins. In his dazed state, Mark failed to lock the bathroom door behind him. The hot water did little to clear his mind, but it provided a brief respite from the madness unfolding in his living room. As he stepped out of the shower, reaching for a towel, the bathroom door suddenly swung open. Lyra and Mira stood in the doorway, their eyes widening at the sight of Mark's naked form. Oh my, Lyra exclaimed, her gaze traveling appreciatively over Mark's body. Is this a traditional Earth greeting we were unaware of? Mark yelped, frantically grabbing for the towel. What are you doing? Get out! But the twins made no move to leave. Instead, they stepped further into the bathroom, their expressions a mix of curiosity and something else Mark couldn't quite identify. Fascinating musculature, Mira observed, tilting her head. Tell us, Mark, do all humans possess such defined abdominal regions? Or is this unique to you? Mark's face burned as he clutched the towel tighter around his waist. This isn't... you can't just barge in on someone like this. Lyra's brow furrowed. But you left the portal unsealed. On our world, this is an invitation for communal bathing rituals. Well, on Earth, it's a major invasion of privacy, Mark spluttered. Mira leaned in closer, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Privacy? An intriguing concept. Tell us, Mark, do humans typically engage in solitary cleaning practices? Or is there a social component we're unaware of? Mark backed up until he hit the shower wall, acutely aware of how small the bathroom suddenly felt. Look, I really think you should leave and we can discuss this, fully clothed. But the twins seemed oblivious to his discomfort. They continued their barrage of increasingly personal questions, their voices overlapping in their enthusiasm. Is the removal of body hair a common practice among Earth males? Do those protrusions on your chest serve a specific function? Are all humans equipped with that particular appendage, or is it a gender-specific feature? Mark's head spun, caught between mortification and a surreal sense that he had stumbled into some bizarre dream. Or perhaps a very strange alien research project. Enough! He finally shouted, his voice echoing off the bathroom tiles. I don't know what kind of experiment this is, but it ends now. Please just give me some space. The twins exchanged a look, a silent communication passing between them. Then, to Mark's immense relief, they backed toward the door. Our apologies, Lyra said, though her tone held more curiosity than contrition. We seem to have violated a cultural taboo. Mira nodded, her eyes still roaming over Mark's towel-clad form. We shall retreat and allow you to complete your hygiene rituals. But perhaps later you could educate us further on human modesty customs? Before Mark could formulate a response, the twins slipped out of the bathroom, leaving him alone with his racing thoughts and the dawning realization that his life had just taken a turn into the truly bizarre. As he dressed with shaky hands, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that this awkward, surreal encounter was just the beginning of something much larger and stranger than he could possibly imagine. Mark emerged from the bathroom, his mind reeling from the bizarre encounter. He found Lyra and Mira seated primly on his couch, their otherworldly eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. I think, he said slowly, we need to have a serious talk. The twins exchanged a glance, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, Lyra nodded. You are correct, Mark. We have not been entirely forthcoming with you. Mira leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The truth is, we are not from your world at all. Mark's breath caught in his throat. Despite the strangeness of the past few days, hearing it stated so plainly sent a shock through his system. You're aliens? We prefer the term extraterrestrial beings, Lyra corrected gently. But yes, we come from a planet in what you would call the Andromeda Galaxy. Mark sank into a nearby chair, his legs suddenly weak. Why are you here? Why me? Mira's expression turned grave. We are on a mission of utmost importance. Our world is in peril, and the key to its salvation lies hidden somewhere on Earth. We chose you, Mark, Lyra added, her eyes softening, because we sensed in you a yearning for adventure, for something beyond the mundane existence you've known. Mark's mind raced, trying to process this flood of information. But why reveal yourselves now? Why not just, I don't know, blend in and find whatever it is you're looking for? The twins' faces darkened simultaneously. We are not alone in our quest, Mira explained. There are those who would see our mission fail, who would rather see our world perish than allow us to succeed. The Galactic Enforcement Bureau, Lyra spat the name like a curse. They have followed us to Earth. We need your help, Mark. We need a place to hide, and someone who understands this world to guide us. Mark's head spun. Aliens, intergalactic chases, hidden artifacts. It was like something out of one of his beloved sci-fi novels, but terrifyingly real. This is, a lot to take in, he managed. How do I know you're telling the truth? That this isn't some elaborate prank or, I don't know, a shared hallucination? Lyra and Mira exchanged another glance. Then, to Mark's astonishment, they began to glow. A soft, pulsating light emanated from their skin, bathing the room in an ethereal blue radiance. On our world, Mira explained, her voice taking on a melodic quality, we communicate not just through words, but through light and thought. As if to demonstrate, A tendril of luminescence reached out from Mira's hand, gently brushing against Mark's forehead. In an instant, his mind was flooded with images. A world of crystalline spires and shimmering oceans. Creatures of impossible beauty and terrifying aspect, and an encroaching darkness that threatened to engulf it all. Mark gasped, reeling from the intensity of the vision. "Okay," he breathed. "Okay, I believe you. But what exactly do you need me to do?" The glow faded, leaving the twins looking suddenly vulnerable. "First," Lyra said, "we need your discretion. No one can know who we truly are." Mira nodded. "And we need your knowledge of this world. Earth customs, human behavior. There is so much we do not understand." Mark ran a hand through his hair, his mind already racing with the implications. "All right, I'll help you. But we're going to need some ground rules. First, no more barging in on me in the bathroom." The twins had the grace to look abashed. "We apologize again for that cultural misstep," Lyra said. "Perhaps you could educate us on proper human etiquette." And so began Mark's crash course in teaching alien twins how to pass as human. The next few days were a whirlwind of awkward, often hilarious lessons. "No, you can't just read people's minds without permission," Mark explained patiently as they walked through the park. "Humans consider that a major invasion of privacy," Mira frowned. "But how do you communicate complex ideas efficiently? Your verbal language is so limited." Mark chuckled. "We manage. Just try to stick to talking out loud, okay?" Their attempts at blending in led to numerous close calls. At the grocery store, Lyra became fascinated by the produce section, attempting to commune telepathically with a head of lettuce. Mark had to quickly intervene, explaining away her behavior to bemused onlookers as a New Age meditation technique. Mira, meanwhile, nearly caused a scene at the library when she discovered the science fiction section. "But these accounts are so inaccurate," she exclaimed loudly. "The Zorgans of Betelgeuse would never behave in such a manner." Despite the challenges, Mark found himself enjoying the twins' company more and more. Their boundless curiosity and unique perspective on the world was refreshing. And if he was being honest with himself, their otherworldly beauty and the way they looked at him with those mesmerizing eyes didn't hurt either. One evening, as they sat on Mark's balcony watching the sunset, Lyra turned to him with a serious expression. "Mark, there's something we haven't told you about our mission." He tensed, sensing the shift in mood. "What is it?" Mira picked up the thread. "The artifact we seek, it's not just a relic. It's a weapon of immense power. In the wrong hands, it could devastate not just our world, but yours as well." Mark's mouth went dry. "And you think it's here? In Millbrook?" Lyra nodded. "Our instruments detected a unique energy signature in this area. We believe the artifact was hidden here millennia ago by our ancestors." "But why Earth?" Mark asked. "Why hide something so powerful here?" "Because," Mira said softly, "your world was considered too primitive to ever unlock its secrets. No offense." Mark was about to retort when a blinding light suddenly illuminated the sky. A low, pulsing hum filled the air, growing louder by the second. The twins leapt to their feet, faces pale with fear. "They found us," Lyra whispered. In the distance, a sleek silver craft descended from the clouds, heading straight for the center of town. "The Galactic Enforcement Bureau," Mira hissed. "We need to move. Now." Mark's heart raced as he realized the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just about helping two quirky aliens anymore. The fate of multiple worlds might hang in the balance. "My car," he said, grabbing his keys. "We can use the back roads to get out of town." As they raced down the stairs, Mark's mind whirled with questions and doubts. Was he really ready to become a fugitive, harboring alien refugees? What if the twins were lying, and they were the real threat? But as he glanced at Lyra and Mira, their faces etched with determination and fear, he knew he couldn't abandon them now. For better or worse, their fates were intertwined. They piled into Mark's beat-up sedan, the engine roaring to life as they peeled out of the parking lot. In the rearview mirror, Mark caught a glimpse of shadowy figures emerging from the alien craft, their forms decidedly not human. "Where to?" he asked, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Lyra produced a small, glowing device from seemingly nowhere. The artifact's energy signature is strongest to the north. We need to find it before they do. As they sped out of town, leaving behind the only life Mark had ever known, he couldn't help but feel a mix of terror and exhilaration. The ordinary world of lattes and small-town gossip was fading in the rearview mirror, replaced by a universe of infinite possibilities and dangers. Mira placed a hand on his arm, her touch sending a jolt of electricity through him. "Thank you, Mark," she said softly. "We know we're asking a lot of you." He managed a tight smile. "Well, I always did want some adventure in my life, though I have to admit, this is a bit more than I bargained for." Lyra leaned forward from the back seat. "Once we secure the artifact, we can return you to your normal life. We promise." But as they drove into the unknown, Mark wasn't sure he wanted to go back to normal. The twins had awakened something in him, a longing for more than just the daily grind of his coffee shop existence. The chase was on, and Mark found himself at the center of an intergalactic conflict he barely understood. But as he glanced at the alien beauties beside him, he couldn't help but feel that somehow, this was where he was meant to be. Their flight from Millbrook turned into a frantic game of cat and mouse across the countryside. Mark's knowledge of back roads and hidden spots proved invaluable as they narrowly evaded the pursuing Galactic Enforcement Bureau agents time and again. During a brief respite hidden in an abandoned barn, Lyra and Mira revealed more about their unique abilities. They demonstrated their power to manipulate light and energy, creating dazzling illusions that left Mark breathless. "On our world," Lyra explained, her hands weaving intricate patterns of light, "these abilities are as natural as breathing. But here, they drain our energy quickly." Mira nodded, her usually vibrant aura dimmed with fatigue. "The Earth's atmosphere, it's not conducive to our natural state. We need to find the artifact soon, or we may lose our powers entirely." Mark felt a pang of concern. "Is there anything I can do to help? Some way to, I don't know, recharge you?" The twins exchanged a meaningful glance, a hint of mischief in their eyes despite their exhaustion. "Well," Mira purred, "there is one way." Before Mark could react, both sisters pressed close to him, their bodies radiating an otherworldly warmth. He felt a tingling sensation as tendrils of light danced across his skin, connecting him to the twins in a way that defied explanation. "Human emotions," Lyra murmured, her lips inches from his ear. "They're so potent, so raw. They can fuel our abilities in ways we never imagined." Mark's heart raced, caught between desire and confusion. I'm not sure I understand." Mira's hand traced a pattern on his chest, leaving a trail of shimmering energy. "Then let us show you." What followed was an experience beyond anything Mark could have imagined. It wasn't exactly physical, but it wasn't purely mental either. Waves of pleasure and connection washed over him as the twins drew energy from his emotions, their forms becoming more vibrant and alive with each passing moment. When it was over, Mark felt drained but exhilarated. The twins glowed with renewed strength, their eyes sparkling with a mixture of gratitude and something more primal. That was, Mark struggled to find the words. "Necessary," Lyra said quickly, though her flushed cheeks betrayed her. "And most enjoyable," Mira added with a wink. Before they could discuss what had transpired further, the sound of approaching vehicles snapped them back to reality. The Galactic Enforcement Bureau had picked up their trail once more. As they fled into the night, Mark's mind raced. He was in deeper than ever now, emotionally entangled with these alien beings in ways he couldn't begin to comprehend. But there was no turning back. Their desperate search for the artifact led them to a series of ancient caves hidden in the nearby mountains. As they ventured deeper into the earth, the twins' instruments began to pulse with increasing intensity. "It's here," Lyra breathed, her voice filled with awe and trepidation. After all this time, they emerged into a vast underground chamber, its walls covered in strange glowing symbols. At the center stood a pedestal, and upon it rested an object that defied description, a swirling vortex of energy contained within a crystalline structure. "The Nexus Key," Mira whispered reverently. "With this we can save our world, or destroy it." As Mark stared at the artifact, transfixed by its beauty and terror, The sound of footsteps echoed through the cave. The Galactic Enforcement Bureau had caught up with them at last. A voice boomed through the chamber, amplified and distorted. "Step away from the Nexus key. You have no idea of the forces you're dealing with." Mark turned to see a group of figures entering the cave, their forms shifting and changing as if they couldn't quite settle on a single appearance. Leading them was a being that radiated authority and barely contained fury. "Agent Zor-El!" Lyra spat, her voice filled with venom. "Still playing lapdog to the council, I see." The leader's form solidified into a tall, imposing figure with metallic skin and eyes that glowed like dying stars. "And you two are still deluded enough to think you can change the natural order of things. Hand over the key, and perhaps we'll show leniency to your pet human." Mark bristled at being called a pet, but kept his mouth shut. He was out of his depth here, caught between cosmic forces he could barely comprehend. Mira's hands began to glow with barely contained energy. "We'll never let you have it. Our world deserves a chance to survive." Zor-El's laugh was like grinding metal. "Your world? You mean the world you abandoned? The one you left to die while you gallivanted across the cosmos?" Mark's head snapped toward the twins. What is he talking about? Lyra's face was a mask of pain and regret. "We didn't abandon our world, Mark. We were exiled, punished for daring to challenge the Council's decision to let our planet die. They would sacrifice billions of lives for their precious balance," Mira added, her voice breaking. "We couldn't stand by and let it happen." Mark's mind reeled. The stakes were higher than he'd ever imagined. This wasn't just about saving a planet. It was about challenging the very foundations of galactic order. Zor-El raised a weapon that looked like it had been pulled from the heart of a dying sun. "Enough talk. Surrender the key, or we'll take it by force." Time seemed to slow as Mark looked between the advancing agents and the twins he'd come to care for deeply. In that moment, he realized that his old life was gone forever. There was no going back to being just a small-town barista after this. With a deep breath, he made his choice. Lunging forward, he grabbed the Nexus key from its pedestal. Energy coursed through him, filling him with power beyond imagination. "Mark, no!" Lyra cried out. "A human body can't contain that much power." But it was too late. The cave erupted in blinding light as the full force of the Nexus key was unleashed. In that moment, Mark saw everything, past, present, and a multitude of possible futures branching out before him. As the light faded and his vision cleared, Mark found himself changed. The power of the key had transformed him, unlocking potential he never knew he possessed. Zor-El and his agents lay scattered on the ground, stunned by the energy discharge. The twins stared at Mark in awe and fear. What did you do?" Mira whispered. Mark looked down at his hands, now crackling with cosmic energy. He felt connected to the universe in ways he couldn't begin to describe. With a thought, he could reshape reality itself. "I made a choice," he said, his voice resonating with newfound power. "And now, we're going to save your world. All of them." As Lyra and Mira rushed to embrace him, tears of joy and disbelief in their eyes, Mark knew that his greatest adventure was just beginning. The ordinary man was gone, replaced by something new, a bridge between worlds, a guardian of cosmic balance. The cave trembled as reality itself seemed to bend around them. Whatever came next, Mark knew one thing for certain: life would never be boring again. The cave shimmered with residual energy as Mark, Lyra, and Mira emerged into the cool night air. Mark's newfound powers crackled around him, casting everything in an ethereal glow. The twins clung to him, their eyes wide with awe and a touch of fear. "What now?" Mira whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Mark took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the universe thrumming through his veins. "We find the real artifact," he said with newfound conviction. "This was just a key, a fraction of its true power. The actual Nexus is still out there." Lyra's brow furrowed. "But how?" "We've searched everywhere." A memory flickered in Mark's mind, a story he'd heard countless times but never paid much attention to. "The old well," he murmured. "There's a legend in town about a wishing well with strange powers. I always thought it was just local folklore, but—" The twins exchanged excited glances. "Where is this well?" Mira asked urgently. Mark's lips curved into a wry smile. Right under our noses, beneath stellar bruise. They made their way back to town, Mark's new abilities allowing them to travel undetected. The streets of Millbrook were eerily quiet, as if the whole town was holding its breath in anticipation of cosmic events unfolding. As they approached the coffee shop, Mark felt a pull, an energy signature that resonated with the power flowing through him. It's here, he breathed. I can feel it. They slipped inside, the familiar smell of coffee grounds now tinged with an otherworldly scent. Mark led them to a trap door in the storage room, hidden beneath years of accumulated junk. I always thought this was just for maintenance, he muttered as he heaved it open. A spiral staircase descended into darkness. As they made their way down, the air grew thick with ancient power. At the bottom, they found themselves in a circular chamber, its walls adorned with the same glowing symbols they'd seen in the cave. And there at the center was an old stone well. The Nexus, Lyra whispered reverently. After all this time, Mark approached the well, feeling the energy within calling to him. He reached out, his fingertips barely grazing the weathered stone. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Dust and debris rained down as the ceiling exploded inward. Through the newly created hole descended Agent Zor-El and his team, their weapons trained on the trio. Step away from the Nexus, Zor-El bellowed. You have no idea what forces you're dealing with. Mark stood his ground, cosmic energy crackling around him. Neither do you, he retorted. This isn't about control or balance. It's about life, about giving worlds a chance to survive. Zor-El's metallic features contorted in rage. Fool! The Nexus maintains the delicate balance of the universe. Unleashing its power could unravel reality itself. Or it could save countless lives, Mira shot back, including our world, which your precious council condemned to die. The standoff crackled with tension. Mark's mind raced, searching for a solution that wouldn't end in violence. But before he could act, Lyra made her move. With a cry of determination, she lunged for the well, her hands plunging into its depths. A blinding light erupted, enveloping the chamber. When the glare faded, a swirling vortex hovered above the well, a portal to another world. It's our home, Lyra gasped, her eyes filled with tears. We can save them. But as she moved toward the portal, Zor-El fired his weapon. The energy blast struck Lyra, sending her tumbling to the ground. No! Mira screamed, rushing to her sister's side. Mark's vision went red. With a roar of fury, he unleashed the full force of his newfound powers. Energy beams lanced from his hands, scattering the galactic enforcement agents. Zor-El stood firm, returning fire with his own formidable weapons. The chamber became a maelstrom of cosmic forces. Mark and Zor-El traded blows that shook the foundations of reality itself. All the while, the portal pulsed ominously, growing larger and more unstable with each passing second. Mark! Mira's voice cut through the chaos. The portal! It's destabilizing. If we don't close it soon, both our worlds could be torn apart. Realization dawned on Mark's face. This was the true test, not defeating Zor-El, but finding a way to save both Earth and the twins' homeworld without destroying everything in the process. With a supreme effort of will, Mark ceased his attack on Zor-El. Instead, he turned his full attention to the portal, channeling the Nexus energy through his body. What are you doing? Zor-El demanded, his weapon still trained on Mark. What you should have done from the beginning, Mark grunted through gritted teeth. Finding a balance. As Mark poured his power into the portal, strange images flickered across its surface. He saw glimpses of the twins' dying world, of the Earth, and of countless other planets hanging in the balance. With a flash of insight, Mark understood. The Nexus wasn't meant to save one world at the expense of others. It was a conduit, a way to share energy and resources across the cosmos. Lyra, Mira, he called out, his voice strained with effort. I need your help. Channel your energy through me. Show me your world. The twins didn't hesitate. They pressed their hands to Mark's back, their own powers joining with his. Together, they wove a tapestry of energy, connecting Earth to the twins' homeworld in a symbiotic bond. Zor-El watched in amazement as the portal stabilized, no longer a threat but a bridge between worlds. Impossible, he breathed. Mark turned to the agent, his eyes glowing with cosmic fire. Not impossible, just a different way of thinking. Your council was so focused on maintaining the status quo that they couldn't see the potential for growth, for mutual benefit. As the energy flow stabilized, the chamber filled with a warm, pulsing light. Through the portal, they could see the twins' world already beginning to heal, while Earth seemed to thrum with newfound vitality. Zor-El lowered his weapon, his metallic features softening. Perhaps we have been too rigid in our thinking. This bears further investigation. As the immediate crisis passed, the full weight of their actions began to sink in. Mark turned to the twins, his heart heavy. "You can go home now," he said softly. "Your world is saved." Lyra and Mira exchanged a long look, volumes passing between them in that silent communication. Finally, Lyra spoke. "I will return," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Our people need guidance to navigate this new connection with Earth. But Mira," she turned to her sister with a sad smile, "your heart has found a new home, hasn't it?" Mira's eyes flickered to Mark, a blush coloring her cheeks. I would like to stay, if that's all right, to learn more about Earth and to help maintain this new bridge between our worlds." Mark's heart soared, even as he felt a pang of sadness for the sisters' impending separation. "Of course," he said warmly. "There's so much we can learn from each other." As Lyra prepared to step through the portal, Zor-El approached the group. "I must return to the council," he said gruffly. "They need to be informed of these developments. But know this, we will be watching. This experiment of yours, this new balance, it must be maintained." Mark nodded solemnly. "We understand, and we'll do everything in our power to make it work." With a final nod, Zor-El and his remaining agents departed, leaving Mark, Mira, and Lyra alone in the chamber. Lyra embraced her sister fiercely. "This isn't goodbye," she whispered. "Just see you later." Mira nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Go! Our people need you, and I'll be here, learning all I can about our new allies." With a final wave, Lyra stepped through the portal. The swirling vortex shimmered and then shrank, condensing into a small glowing orb that hovered above the well. "A permanent link," Mira explained, her voice filled with wonder. "Subtle enough to go unnoticed by most, but always there if we need it." Mark wrapped an arm around Mira's shoulders, marveling at how natural it felt. "So," he said with a hint of his old humor, "think you're ready to learn the art of brewing the perfect latte?" Mira's laugh was like music. "I believe that would be an excellent place to start my education on Earth culture." As they ascended the stairs back to Stellar Brews, Mark's mind whirled with possibilities. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in brilliant hues of pink and gold. It felt like more than just a new day. It was the dawn of a new era. 1 year later, the bell above the door of Stellar Brews chimed merrily as a customer entered. Mark looked up from the espresso machine, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Welcome to Stellar Brews," he called out. "What can I get started for you today?" The customer, a slightly bewildered-looking man in a business suit, approached the counter cautiously. I heard you had some unique offerings here?" Mark's eyes twinkled with amusement. "You could say that. Might I recommend our Andromeda Mocha? It's out of this world." From her place at the pastry counter, Mira stifled a giggle. Her hair, once an otherworldly shade of blue, was now a more subdued brown, though it still seemed to shimmer with hidden colors in the right light. As Mark prepared the drink, a swirling concoction that seemed to defy the laws of physics, he reflected on how much had changed in the past year. Stellar Brews had become something of a local legend, known for its bizarre but delicious creations. Most of the town's residents chalked it up to clever marketing and culinary innovation. Only a select few knew the truth, that many of their ingredients came from worlds beyond the stars. The old well in the basement had become a closely guarded secret, a portal not just to Mira's homeworld, but to a network of alien civilizations. Millbrook had become an unofficial hub of intergalactic commerce and cultural exchange, though most of its residents remained blissfully unaware. Mark still marveled at times at the power that flowed through him, a cosmic energy that he was only beginning to understand. But more than that, He marveled at the everyday magic of his new life, the joy of discovery, the thrill of bridging worlds, and the deep connection he'd found with Mira. As if sensing his thoughts, Mira appeared at his side, sliding a plate of pastries that shimmered with an otherworldly glow onto the counter. "Your Lumina tarts are ready," she said with a wink. The customer's eyes widened as he took in the ethereal treats. "Are those glowing?" Mark grinned. "Just a trick of the light," he said smoothly. "Why don't you give them a try? I promise they're unlike anything you've ever tasted." As the man cautiously bit into a tart, his face transformed with wonder. "This is incredible. What's your secret?" Mark and Mira exchanged a knowing look. "Let's just say we have some out-of-town suppliers," Mark replied with a chuckle. Just then, the communicator hidden beneath the counter gave a soft ping. Mark excused himself, ducking into the back room where a holographic display flickered to life. Lyra's smiling face appeared, as radiant as ever. "Greetings, Mark. How fares our Earth outpost?" "Business is booming," Mark reported with a grin. "Your latest shipment of celestial beings was a huge hit. How are things on your end?" Lyra's expression turned serious. "The Council is still wary, but they can't deny the benefits of our new arrangement. And there's talk of expanding our network to other compatible worlds." Mark nodded thoughtfully. "Looks like we might need to franchise stellar brews across the galaxy." They shared a laugh at that, marveling at how far they'd come from that fateful night in Mark's apartment. As he ended the call and returned to the front of the shop, Mark felt a familiar surge of excitement. Every day brought new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities to bridge the gap between worlds. He caught Mira's eye as she expertly crafted a latte, her movements as graceful as a dance. She smiled at him, a look that still made his heart skip a beat. Yes, Mark thought as he rolled up his sleeves and prepared to greet the next customer. Life would certainly never be boring again, and he wouldn't have it any other way. The bell chimed once more as the door opened, and Mark turned to greet whoever, or whatever, might come through next. In stellar brews and in this brave new universe they were building, anything was possible.